Hi, welcome back to another episode of Stratazine, where we're talking about all things social media and content. Today, we're going to be talking about how to succeed in marketing as a new business. We got some visitors with us today: Austin, Noah, Abby, Parker, Kyle, and Seth. And you guys have been doing a lot of research on this topic, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. I'm excited for our conversation. Austin, you're up first, right?
Yes.
What have you been researching and looking into?
Yeah, so my biggest question was, does every company need to stand out on social media? So I made a quick little video describing a little bit about what I found. My name is Austin with Stratazine, and today we're going to be asking a really big question. Does every company need to stand out on social media? So the short answer is no. A local diner doesn't need millions of views, right? So one tip comes from the Room Marketing. This is tip one. Small businesses can grow without going viral. A post reaching 500 local people can be more valuable than one reaching 50,000 random viewers, and that comes from the Room Marketing 2026. That's tip one. Tip two is from MarketWiz. Focus on your local radius. Success comes from staying visible to the right people within 15 and 20 minutes of your front door. That's from MarketWiz 2025, right? They don't need to stand out. You need to stand out where it matters. You need to know your demographic, and that's where tip three comes in from Varula. Tip three says build relationships, not reach. Varula explains that local businesses thrive when they engage directly with their community instead of copying global brands. So, does every company need to stand out on social media? No, not at all. They just need to stand out where it matters. For Stratazine, I'm Austin Pace. All right, so James, I've actually been in your class. We've been talking a little bit about, different social media platforms and what kind of content that they need to really stand out. I've been working in a group helping scroll with their social media. And one thing that we've been noticing is that a lot of their social media posts, they've been targeting the wrong demographic for Instagram, right? They want their demographic to be a wider age range. They want it to be more broad, but Instagram is mostly filled with people our age and a bit younger, and they're targeting the wrong demographic. So first thing I wanted to ask you guys was, have you seen a post on Instagram, or do you follow, like a small business or a content creator that might be posting, the wrong content, right? Where you think, I don't connect with this, and neither would people my age. Have you guys seen that before?
I would say I've definitely come across videos where it's like some sort of business. I mean, I can't really specify like a specific business, but one that's definitely not something I'm used to or engaging with. And then they're doing some sort of like trend or something that's really popular at the time. And then it kind of like pushes me away from it. It's just like, oh man, they're just trying to like kind of fit into the bubble. I think that's kind of been my experience with that, is like it can kind of feel a little disingenuous sometimes, or like maybe that's not the intention, but sometimes it's just like, oh man, it's just another one of those things.
Yeah, and I think Abby's going to touch a little bit about like trends with businesses, but I mean, it kind of all connects together where, a lot of the times you just have to understand who your demographic is and who your audience is. And that's where I think a lot of small businesses, take the wrong turn. I follow this little restaurant that I used to work for back in my hometown, and they're just now getting onto social media, and they don't have any followers. They got nothing. They had one video go viral because it was for a trend, but nothing really came from it, right? They just saw views. There was no connection. Nobody went to this place because it got millions of views, but it didn't get the right views, right? So what I kind of found in my research was that a small business or a company needs to understand that views doesn't always mean success. Finding 300 of the right views instead of 1 million just random views is going to be so much more beneficial for your business and small and company.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Austin. That was great. And it's so fascinating to see that, especially play out with like algorithmic changes, right? And how they're delivering out content. Let's see, Noah, you're up next, right?
Well, I decided to go further into like the fact that social media can be used really effectively, but if you stretch yourself too thin, it's really easy to do it wrong. And that can be shown on the screen.
All right, what's up, everybody? For my episode of Stratazine, or my segment of Stratazine, I decided to do that you don't have to be everywhere. Because so many companies find themselves stretching themselves too thin, and that's actually really bad for business. According to ResearchGate.net, a recent global meta-analysis published in the Review of Communication Research revealed that constant technological and communication overload has triggered massive social media fatigue among users. The pressure to maintain active accounts on every new network isn't just exhausting for the creators. Instead, it actively backfires. To go along with that, according to Emerald Insights, research from them highlights that when brands try to blanket every platform, they accidentally increase user fatigue, leading to lurking behaviors where followers disconnect, stop interacting, or even actively mute or scroll past brand messages, which I have done myself because people that I follow stretch themselves on every social media platform there is. According to PCMag.com, ultimately data from PCMag shows that more than half of all consumers now report that maintaining an online presence simply feels like work, so it's not as enjoyable. Feeling a massive wave of user disengagement, trying to force a brand into every digital corner wastes valuable internal resources on empty metrics. So that just costs the company money and time and stuff you really can't get back. According to the sanctuarymg.com, companies don't need to be everywhere. They need to dominate one or two specific channels where they are actually finding their buying audience in a concentrated spot. Rather than spreading themselves thin across platforms all over, their customers are actively trying to escape. There's my sources. Thank you.
So along with that, I was just thinking of like businesses that I have seen do really well at this, and I thought specifically of Wendy's because everybody has seen Wendy's crazy Twitter account.
Savage.
And I would just like to turn it on all of you and ask if you guys have seen that specifically. Like, are there any businesses that you have followed that have specifically found their specific social media that works for them?
Yes. I can name a few that I actually follow. Nutter Butter, Duolingo, Subway Surfers, like Chili's has even started to ramp up their activity. And their content is so interesting, but they, like you were saying, they targeted their demographic, and I don't see them much anywhere else.
I think Chili's during the World Cup, especially,
Yeah.
they've been going crazy. And when the U.S. was playing Belgium, they had this whole post about how many Chili's there are in the United States versus the 0 in Belgium, to basically say that they were rooting for the United States to win the whole thing. And naturally, we know that didn't happen, but I feel like that goes along really well with what we've been talking about because they know that people go to their restaurant to eat there and watch soccer at the same time if the World Cup's going on. And so they've found it specifically their niche, and they don't really want to branch out or deviate from that because they know that that's where business comes from.
Awesome.
I was just thinking about the World Cup. Heinz, they didn't get the partnership, or the World Cup didn't do a partnership with Heinz, and so they had to take every bottle of Heinz ketchup and put black tape over it. Mm-hmm. And Heinz came out with a post and put black, a black card over their logo and said it's still got to be. And then and left a black card over there, and everybody lost it. I just love that the capitalization on not only the trend, but on that strategy of capitalizing on those moments. So
Great, awesome, thanks Noah. Let's move on to our next segment. Abby, you looked into trends, is that right?
Yes, there is a big debate going around right now talking about whether following and keeping up with social media trends benefits your company, and this is what my resources have to say.
According to Marketing.com, understanding and capitalizing on social media trends can help businesses reach their target audience more effectively. It also boosts their brand visibility and engagement. And as audience move to new platforms or engagement with different content formats, brands that fail to adapt may struggle to maintain their visibility and relevance to their customers. As you can see, according to Marketing.com, using social media trends can benefit your brand and your company, and it can hurt your brand and company if you don't use social media marketing, social media trends for marketing purposes. Some cons of social media trends, according to Freebs.com, trends chasing is a dangerous game. It can be very hard to master every emerging trend, and even if you do, your audience will likely be aware of what you're doing. According to Freebs.com, not every new trend is going to apply to your brand and audience. The key is finding what trends work for your business. So, as you can see, according to Freebs.com, social media trends can harm your small business, but only if you use social media trend in a wrong way, where it's not according to your brand and it's not reaching out to the audience you're wanting to, and you're using it too much, and it just becomes this trend chasing game, which can be dangerous for your business. Social media impact on small businesses. According to the University of Texas Permian Basin, it increases brand awareness, it drives traffic to your website, it promotes content, and it helps you stay ahead of competitors. As you can see, using social media can improve your business and help it grow. But using trends, if done correctly and well, can help your marketing as well and help you gain followers. Here are my sources. Thank you.
Yeah, so as you can see from the video, the trends can be beneficial if it's not overwhelming your profile. And so the question I have is, how have you seen trends influence you on how to follow a brand or what company you follow based on those trends?
I think specifically, like I just talked about, the Twitter account on Wendy's, like they're hilarious, and if it makes me laugh, I'll probably consider it following it more than I would otherwise. But also with that, like on on a different note, I love sports, I love baseball, and like when I see the Idaho Falls baseball team, the Chuckers, did a get to know the players segment where they just had like the players describe what their favorite food was and just stuff like that, just asked them random questions. And I'd been following them before, but I was like, this is actually pretty cool because it makes them more personal to me. And so if I go to their games, I can actually like know something about the players before I just watch the way they play baseball.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think trends can really benefit companies if they know the audience and know what trends will be beneficial to them, and not just do trends with their marketing, but they have other things along with it.
Can I add one too? I work for BYU Idaho Radio, and there was one video that we did. It did really well views wise, because we used a trend. And I mean, we're a news station, right? We do news, music, and it's sometimes kind of hard to do a lot of the trends and relate it back to radio and news. But this one worked really well for us. It was when One Republic came to BYU Idaho. We did a video, kind of like walking down a runway with different kinds of bags that you could bring into the concert, and that got a lot of engagement. First, because it was informal, like informing people of what they could do to, I guess, what kind of bags they could bring into the concert. But it was also fun and enjoyable to watch, right? It was a bunch of dudes looking like, runway models. I had a plastic baggie, like I had my stuff in it because it was clear it worked. It was really fun, right? So it caught people's eyes in the fact that it was a trend and it was a good time, but it was also aligning with our message with BYU Idaho Radio, and that we're gonna give you the news, right? We're gonna tell you what's up, and it worked really, really well. So I think using trends to your advantage like that, and not using every single trend that comes along, and it is super important. I think you touched on that really well.
At the end of the video, did you say, "That's all"?
No, I didn't.
I think that's a huge part about trends for me. You guys were talking about, mentioned it several times, making sure that they're done correctly, right? Uniquely made, leveraging those moments, those like kind of moments that are standing out, fun and entertaining. I think the other thing that always has to be considered when utilizing trends is whether or not the business can react fast enough? Like, is the approval process so cumbersome that you can't get it? Like, you've missed the trend. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of it. But it's uniquely being making those or adopting those to fit the message, what you're saying about BYU Idaho Radio, right? And even unique content that leverages it a ton that way. So thanks, Abby. Let's move on to Parker. You've been looking into how AI is being used in creating personalized marketing strategies. Is that right?
So it's actually, I don't know if we updated it, but it's actually it's basically kind of what we've been talking about how it's like there's always like these trends like constantly changing and stuff like that. But I want to kind of fine tune it more towards identity within brands and social media, because I think that that's something that's really beneficial to businesses, and I talk about it here on this video here.
Hi, my name is Parker Youngward, and I'm here to talk about how identity-based marketing helps new brands stand out on social media. Brands that stand out today don't just advertise products, they actually look to create communities people want to be a part of. The problem is that consumers are more likely to scroll past constant sale pitches, new businesses have little existing trust, and standing out requires more than frequent posting, especially when trying to push product. In the 2025 Sprout Social Index, it shows that people are looking for brands that create authentic, relatable content rather than simply jumping on trends or constantly promoting products. The solution is to build belonging instead of just selling. Instead of flooding feeds with products saying you must buy this, successful brands typically post shared values, behind-the-scenes content, customer stories, community challenges, conversations with followers, and user-generated content. And according to HubSpot's latest research, it shows that marketers believe authentic content performs better than highly produced content, and that building an online community is essential for long-term success. According to the Edelman Trust Institute, 80% of people trust the brands they use. Consumers increasingly expect brands to provide optimism, education, and a sense of community. 73% say trust in a brand increases when it authentically reflects today's culture, rather than being stuck in doing the same formula. Deloitte Digital's State of Social 2024 shows social-first brands earn higher trust and loyalty by making community engagement a core part of the customer experience, rather than treating social media as just another advertising channel. Brands like Liquid Death or Coke Zero are great examples of catering to identity and investing in consumer participation. And then here are my sources.
So yeah, I like whenever I think about any sort of like brand that I'm following on Instagram or any sort of social media, I'm typically thinking about how it is that I feel when I feel like I'm included in like the identity of their brand. I specifically think about like Vans. I'm a big Vans guy. I'm not much of a skateboarder, but I think their culture is so cool. And most of the stuff I feel like they're posting is stuff that relates to like the skateboarders that are being sponsored through their company, or like a specific type of shoe that's being made by a specific skateboarder, stuff like that. And it feels like it's really pushing towards like a culture that's almost outside of the brand. And I'm wondering if there's any sort of like circumstance where you guys have kind of seen that portrayed well through social media and brands that you follow, or maybe even the opposite effect.
That's a good question.
I think you said Vans. Vans is another big one for me. I think they're, I think, one of the best examples of a brand who like can keep an audience for whatever reason. Because I'm like you, I don't skateboard, but like ever since I like listened to like Nirvana when I was like 16, I was like, I guess I'm wearing Vans, even though like they don't wear Vans, but you know what I mean. It's just like
There's a correlation.
there's a correlation. It's just like if you're into like that kind of thing, you just wear Vans for the rest of your life. And even like my uncle, who like they just all wear checkerboard Vans, and that's just a thing. So it's really interesting doing a study on Vans and like thinking about how they did that.
Well, and I think what's cool is it's like once you buy the shoe, it's like it's your kind of yours to kind of do with what you will. Yeah. Like kind of seeing people like draw on them or add designs, I think it gives the consumer their own kind of experience with the brand, which I think is a pretty cool way of kind of creating their own identity. So
I don't know. I think about like McDonald's. You were talking about like a brand that goes outside of their audience. I think about McDonald's putting like high protein items on the menu, and I'm like, I don't know about you, bro, but when I think of McDonald's, I don't think of protein. And I went and I tried, these high protein nuggets, And I mean, according to marketing, there was 30 grams of protein, but I just felt like crap afterwards. I felt like I just drank a gallon of grease, and I was dying. I just ran to the car and chugged my water. And so I think like, I mean, of course you have to follow trends. You have to, I mean, there is an increasing demand for high protein and more quality ingredients, but I think McDonald's might need to remember where they come from, and that convenience and speed might be more important to their audience than getting high protein and then being disappointed with the high protein.
Yes,
30 grams
for
of
the gym
protein,
bros.
120 grams of fat.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
The protein epidemic is real.
Yeah.
Because didn't Starbucks also recently
Yes.
launch
Yeah.
like
Yes,
protein
they
drink? Yeah. And that's the point I think of all of this is it's all you mentioned authenticity, right? Authenticity doesn't mean like showing up like raw or that kind of stuff. It's more about like do you get your audience? Do you get what they're standing for? It's like can you connect with them, right? And I think that's where you see some of those brands like Liquid Death. Like that's I have a love affair with them. They are just like what they produce and what they have their audience, they have their message, they know what th're trying to do, and like it's consistent every time. So it's a lot of fun. Okay, let's move on. Let's see here. Kyle, you're up next. What'd you research?
I looked into the power of grassroots marketing and how it can be amplified by social media. So we're going to learn a little bit more about that in my video here. All right, today we're looking at grassroots marketing, one of the oldest forms of marketing and still one of the most effective. While traditional advertising focuses on reaching as many people as possible, grassroots marketing takes a completely different approach. So what is grassroots marketing? At its core, grassroots marketing is about creating an experience people genuinely want to share. Instead of relying on paid advertising, brands earn trust by turning happy customers into advocates who spread the message through their friends, families, coworkers, and communities. So, why does it work? According to Nielsen, 84% of consumers trust recommendations from friends and family more than any other form of advertising. Grassroots marketing succeeds because it grows through trusted relationships instead of paid promotions. The research goes even further. According to Edelman, unpaid voices are 5 times more influential than paid advertising when building trust. That's why many successful brands invest in creating remarkable customer experiences, because people trust people far more than they trust advertisements. So the big takeaway is simple. People trust people. Grassroots marketing isn't about having the biggest advertising budget. It's about creating experiences worth talking about. For Stratazine, I'm Kyle Adams. Awesome, yeah. I just wanted to go into a background on grassroots marketing because I feel like when you start a new business, right, that's what we're talking about. Everybody understands the concept of, yeah, I'm going to tell my friends and family, and hopefully they tell everybody else. But being a new business gives you an advantage in grassroots marketing that bigger companies don't have. And the biggest thing is flexibility, right? If you're going to succeed as a new business in marketing, you have to start with a fantastic product. And that's what I love about grassroots marketing is your family, your friends will, they might give it a half-baked effort if your product's kind of, okay. But if your friends, if your family, if your community loves your product, they're going to share it with everyone they know. It's simple. I mean, I tell everybody about the products I use. I tried a new deodorant one time and I was like, whew, that smelled amazing. I think I told all my coworkers that day. And I was like, dude, I feel great. I feel so confident. That's the power that grassroots marketing has. But I want to talk about and shift how social media just amplifies that. And you don't even have to focus on paid social media ads. And I think that's the beauty of organic grassroots marketing is if you like my product, share it on your story, right? I'll give you a free bowl, or I'll give you a month free or something like that, right? Or just share it with your friends, right? And you can expand your audience so much more simply by providing a good experience. So I want to ask you guys a question. Can any of you recall a memorable product or company or specific offering that a company had that used social media to amplify the power of grassroots marketing?
I got one. I was just thinking about. So this is going to be I'm a music guy. This is a band example. So I don't really like this band, but they did an amazing job. So they're a band called Geese. And along with grassroots marketing, what they did is they hired a marketing company to do their like music marketing. And what they did is they basically had a bunch of like fake accounts or whatever, or like all these other people that would post about the band to make it seem like, not seem like, but what they did is they were basically trying to mimic this grassroots thing where they were trying to get everyone else to talk about the band, because there's this theory that like, I am going to trust you more. Like if you tell me like, hey, listen to this band, it's going to be I'm more likely to listen to it than like, I don't know, someone I've never met before. So they were trying to like get this whole grassroots thing like unorganically, and it was very controversial, but it really blew them up. And so it's like this whole thing of like, I think people are realizing like grassroots marketing is like a really cool thing, but like we don't want to put in the time to actually like go do it ourselves. So lots of people are trying to like in the whole music marketing thing, the thing right now is like, how do I have 5 different accounts that are like mine, but like they're not real, but just so it seems like more people are into it when they're really not. It's kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I've heard stories. I know a few examples, but it's interesting you bring that up. And I think that's kind of ties into what Brother Rognan was talking about, like the structure of your company and how you choose to execute on moments like that. Really reflect how successful you can be. And sometimes, if you mimic it or fake it, I guess it works out sometimes. I'd say probably the majority of the time is you want to do it real, you want to do it right. And if it's real, if it's right, people are going to spread the word. And if you can have that flexibility in your new business to capitalize on trends and product adjustments, if people don't like it, or spread the word through community, I think it's just going to blow anybody's brand up. So
I think it's kind of a scenario where it's kind of like the product is more like the proof is in the pudding kind of thing, like you're putting it to the test. So I think it's cool.
Great. Thanks, Kyle. Seth, kick us off. Final segment.
Sweet. I'm going to talk about a little bit regarding audience retention. So got a quick video for you.
Hey, my name is Seth Chamberlain, and today I'm going to talk about retaining a social media audience. So on social media, audience retention is basically, can you keep people watching and can you get them to come back? Creators that do this really understand the same foundation. They deeply understand who they're talking to and what people connect with. They start with understanding their audience's interests and behaviors, and their content matches the platform that they're posting on. Those first few seconds when people see a video is really important, or even a post. We call this a hook, and I'm going to talk about hooks a little bit later in the podcast. Shorter videos often hold attention a lot better than longer videos, which is why we have seen an explosion in like Reels and TikToks. And also providing value is a really good way to keep an audience retained, because people want to get value from the content that they're watching. And we'll also talk about that a little bit later. Over time, consistency is one of those things that really can help retain an audience. Is when people expect your content, like if you have your favorite YouTube channel or whatever, whenever they post, you go back and watch it, even though you might have not initially watched that if you didn't know what it was. So consistency is a great way to keep people engaged. Also, using polls and questions and comments and live content going live is a great way to continue to retain your audience. And also analytics is really important, because this helps you know like what kind of posts are doing well to begin with and what your audience likes. Analytics is how you figure out what your audience really likes. Those are some of my sources. Thank you.
So there could probably be like a whole entire podcast just about what I talked about in that video, but kind of what I want to focus on is like hooks and what keeps brand loyalty. So we talked a little bit about Vans earlier, but like this is kind of a 2-part question for you guys. Like, what brands have you seen that have good hooks and that because of that you go back to that brand again and again?
I mean, it's not a brand, but James, you told us about this. I forgot her name, but this lady that she helps people grow their content. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about. She has a lot of videos. Younger lady, blonde.
It's brand launch something. I'm
like
forgetting
that.
it off the top of my head too. But.
Yeah, but like she'll do a fantastic hook for a video about good hooks, right? And she does such a great job with like teaching, but practicing what she's teaching within her videos, right? So she'll use a video that she's talking about hooks with, and she'll provide a great example of a hook, or she'll go through 4 or 5 different examples of a hook, and I'm automatically like locked in and engaged because it keeps me there, right? Because I'm not only seeing somebody saying, "Hey, trust me. This is where I know you can trust me." She's actually doing it as she's teaching, these different, hook strategies. So she does a really great job with, at least for me, keeping me loyal to her content.
You guys heard of or seen the School of Hard Knocks? That guy that goes around and interviews the rich, super billionaires, millionaires, people like that.
And he's like, "What do you do?"
Yeah, he's like, "What do you do for a living?" He's like, "What do you do for a
Uh-huh.
living? How much money? What's the most amount of money you made in a year?" And he'll take like 5-7 minutes of these people's times, and sometimes he'll have like crazy famous people. But like he actually did like a podcast that I watched because he grew his channel in like a year to about $10 million in revenue. It was crazy. And he talked about like their hook story, their hook journey, and how he started like making like these really beautiful polished, like you can see who's on the cover. He put like the amount of money they made, that year, and he tried to make the best hooks possible. And they were good, but then he made one and he forgot to like polish the hook. And it was just the intro video of him walking up to the guy and being like, hey sir, and he just like he stopped because the video went crazy. And so like from now on, like they just make their hooks like that. They super unpolished and raw. And he's like sometimes we put, if it's a really famous person, we'll put it on the cover, right? Or be like, "Do you know who this is?" rather than like Logan Paul, Anyway, so I just thought it was cool. Like he understood his audience after he recognized that performance of that video and was willing to completely change it up to captivate his audience with those hooks.
Yeah. That's why I think analytics is important, because that's really what's going to tell you is like if the video does well, you got to think like, what did this do well versus all my other videos.
Awesome. I'm going to add one more thought on this one. Like you talked about hooks, talking about like knowing your audience. Another huge part about audience retention is originality. There's the repurposing farms that are now out there that are gaining a ton of traction. But in reality, we're looking for new original content all the time. My brother-in-law has told me about this account. They were so excited. It posts the same picture of Nick Cage every single day at the exact same time. And they were like, you got to follow. I think I lasted like 4 days before I stopped following it because like it just gets boring over time. Do you know what I mean? Yep. But at the beginning, it like helped. It was fun. It was interesting. But that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like that originality, creating new content is so valuable and so important. So thanks guys for all participating and doing the research and looking into things. Thanks for everyone that's joined our podcast today. Make sure you guys check it out. Additional social media channels, our YouTube channel, follow to get more information about digital and social media. Thanks for joining.